Hello, everybody, and welcome to...
Jojo runs for Congress.
I'll let you do it this time.
I'm just blinded by the light. I'm literally blinded by the light.
I'm not sure if the last time we did this, I had my glasses on or not.
You did not, so you were literally blind.
I am very blind right now. I can't see anything.
I put a lot of powder on my face, so hopefully there will be no reflecting of any kind.
Yes, it's been a little bit since we last recorded an episode.
Yes.
I've been very, very tired because I've been out getting signatures.
Yeah.
All on my lonesome.
Because we discovered that while I have many talents and many strengths, for some reason, I have the worst anxiety when talking to complete strangers if I need something.
You're not able to be shameless.
No, I cannot be shameless. Not in the way that's necessary to get signatures.
But it must. I can imagine it's hard to talk about yourself in that way. It's easy for me because I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about my wonderful, wonderful wife.
What we learned is that I'm not good at selling myself in certain ways.
Yeah.
I can sell myself in areas that I know I'm good at. But signatures, rough. So Jamie has been kindly picking up the slack where I have most certainly fallen off the mountain.
We're doing it though. We're on
We
pace.
are well on
We'll
our
get
way
there.
to meet
We'll get
our
there.
mark.
Anyway, so today's episode, we're going to be talking about, well, you, I guess.
I will, yeah.
Talking about you as a nurse and how your experiences as a nurse has defined your campaign, how you're running your campaign, and how it might set you apart from not only just the other people running, but also maybe from the other people who are in the Senate or in Congress, because nurses aren't really a common thing in Congress, right?
No, there's currently 2 that are serving, a couple that are running, I think 17 physicians, and I'm not sure if there is any occupational therapists or any other healthcare professionals in Congress.
Other doctors?
Yes, physicians.
Oh, exactly.
It's just interesting to me because healthcare is definitely on the table. I say this all the time. We're going to be voting on healthcare, or Congress will be voting on healthcare.
Yeah.
And you really want some healthcare professionals there when you're casting those votes.
I guess the expectation is right that Congress people have people who are supporting them and giving them the information they need. But I totally understand what you're saying.
I think
having that firsthand knowledge is...
It's not just firsthand knowledge. It's the fact that I can add context and add value to something that is intrinsically abstract.
Okay.
For example, if you're talking about end-of-life hospice care and there's a decision of whether or not it should be covered on Medicare, Medicaid, or health insurance plans, I'm just like, yes, absolutely. 6 months to a year if someone goes on palliative or hospice care. But someone that's working off of a business model might say that that's extremely expensive, or could that incur more costs, or it's not as profitable. It probably doesn't make any money. But arguing that that's better for patients and better for people, better for families is only an experience that I think someone that really knows it personally can sell. Okay. Not that somebody else couldn't sell it, but I would lie myself on a table and be like, take me first before you don't put this into this bill. That's a little dramatic. Maybe I wouldn't lie myself on the table. But in other words, that's a human experience that I can prove value for.
Sure.
And I think it's a lot of the decisions that are made in Congress, it's challenging if you don't really know what it's like on the front lines and how it affects people. So, you ready to move? So Jamie's he doesn't really exactly know what I'm going to talk about, but I'm going to give him my little cards.
Oh.
Because he can't read them.
I can't read it. If it's here, because now I know what it says, I can make it out.
But what I want to talk about today is what sets me apart from other candidates as a nurse.
Yes.
And there are a lot of techniques that I've brought in from my bachelor's and my master's education in nursing that have really shaped the way that I've run this campaign. If you follow me online, if you read what I write, you may say, oh, she's got a very particular style. It's probably because of my background. I'm not a confrontational person, but that's also a personality choice. I ask a lot of questions, and these are all communication techniques that I use in my day-to-day job to survive and on my husband.
Yep.
So
you mess with my mind.
It's not messing with your mind. It really boils down to how I communicate with you.
I'm just kidding.
And let me say, in the many years we've been together, I have been extremely successful in teaching me how to communicate appropriately with you in telling you what I want.
Yes, you have. You're
well, that's neither here nor there. So, on to the first card, Jamie. If you can read it without your glasses.
Yes.
You can turn it towards the camera so they can see it.
The first card we're going to talk about is something called trauma-informed care.
What do you think that is?
Trauma-informed care. I can't even begin to imagine. It's something about dealing with people who are going through a lot of trauma? I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's a great surface level way to answer that question because the word trauma is on the card. I'm going to hold this care. Up. Trauma informed care.
Yes.
I have my little sticky reference notes. I would define this as when you're communicating with someone or looking at an issue or talking to people, you are coming to the conversation with acceptance of the person, what they've been through. It's kind of a way of saying I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to accept you as you are. It's a way that I maintain my empathy, especially at the bedside, because Lord knows we get burned out quick, especially when you see the same things happen over and over again and you start to get emotionally raw.
Right.
Trauma-informed care is a way for me to remember that every person has an experience, has lived through something, and I'm not here to tell them that they were right or wrong, but I'm here to acknowledge that their feelings are valid.
Okay. I like that.
And above all, for me, it means that you're willing to listen. And that is a huge part, the biggest part of this campaign. Because what I intend to do is to really I'm going out there and talking to as many groups, organizations, communities that I can. Individuals, and listening to what they're saying. I'm not pushing or peddling anything. Obviously, I have my own priorities, but just listening to what people are saying, because my goal is to take those voices and put them together and use that to shape my policies and my priorities, because ultimately these are the people that it affects. So,
yeah.
Any questions?
Any questions on trauma-informed care?
Have you ever heard of this before?
I'm sure you've mentioned the term before.
I probably have mentioned it before.
I think you've mentioned all these before.
But if anyone's going to be volunteering for me, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm actually writing a document of some of the basics of communication styles that I use.
Well, you should, because I think not just you, but anyone who's I think that anyone who is working for you, assuming we get that far, or is volunteering for you, I think that you want them to reflect your values, reflect your communication skills, your philosophies, right?
Yeah.
You want them to be your voice. Yeah.
Essentially, my communication style is something that I value.
Yeah.
And we've kind of clashed on this. Jamie is a much more direct, forward person. He says what's on his mind. Yeah, I'm is it Socrates or Euphrates? Whoever sits there and goes like this and thinks for 5 seconds before they're like, so tell me about...
Isn't that the Socratic method?
Socratic method. I guess it is. But again, that is literally something... I said literally. That is something I learned directly from nursing. I think it's always been a part of me. I've always talked in that manner, kind of being the middle child and, I don't know, curious, whatever. But I've always approached my conversations like that.
Okay.
Next card.
Next up. Motivational interviewing.
Jamie?
Is this the one I know for sure?
You definitely know this topic.
Okay.
Because there was a long time ago.
This is the one where you really mess with my mind and doing this one.
I did not mess with your mind.
It is the one I think it is. So is this the one where I say something and you just repeat it back to me as a question, kind of?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And what does that do when I do that? What does it say to you?
So it affirms to me that you are hearing what I'm saying, and that you want me to you are open to hearing more about that subject.
Yes.
Okay.
I am all about motivational interviewing. Everybody that either knows me or works with me is probably thinking, oh shit, she definitely does this.
You're revealing all your secrets.
And they're you know what? If I can share them and people can learn them and use them, more power to you.
Yeah.
Well, motivational interviewing, we'll go through an example because it's the funniest way to describe it. Mm-hmm. I actually went through a class in my senior year of nursing school at Penn where somebody taught us this technique. And it wasn't what I thought it was. But the gist of it for me in practice is that it really shows the other person that you're listening. And even bigger than that is that you don't try to focus on what you want to say next. You try to be present in the moment and really listen.
I struggle with that.
Jamie definitely struggles with
My
that.
mind just like...
You've got a lot of thoughts. And now you're distracting me from what I was going to say.
Sorry.
But above all, it really opens up conversations for people. It can help people make decisions just without you even giving any input, because you give them clarity by saying to them what they've said to you.
Right.
So what's a topic that we could practice this on?
I don't know. What's like
something controversial?
Something controversial.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, I have one. Maybe I don't.
Just do it. No,
okay.
I want you to do it. I don't care what it is.
When do you want to have kids?
When do I want
to
have kids?
No. Not the answer. You don't say, tell me your thoughts about having kids.
Okay. So right now would not be the ideal time for us to have kids. Just on a monetary level and a time level and like things we want to achieve. They wouldn't stop us from doing the things we want to do, but it would add another variable, another layer that we have to deal with, right? So if we somehow got pregnant right now, we would be fine. But ideally, I would want to do it a little further down the road.
We just answered that question for everybody that asks us that constantly.
Yes.
But
when are you going to get pregnant?
Not now. So basically, if I'm hearing you correctly, there are a lot of things in your life that are not in place yet that would make you feel comfortable having a kid.
Yeah.
It's not that you wouldn't love or accept one right now.
Love kids.
It's just that there are some things that you would prefer to happen first.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. That's about right. Yeah.
See? He concurs. But that's kind of motivational interviewing in practice. It requires listening and trying not to...
I feel like it also probably requires like a deft touch in how you do it, because I feel like if you are very robotic in how you say stuff back to the person, it can probably be like condescending seeming and like demeaning.
I never thought about that, but that's a really good point. Because if I just said, there are a lot of things you want to accomplish first before you have kids. Yeah,
because it can kind of just be like,
it's like
you're just like saying exactly what I said. It's like, why aren't you even trying to engage in this conversation? But if you do it right, you can make it feel like the person's like hearing you and like trying to get more out of you. And
which brings a good point. I mean, tone for me is really important, and that's why I struggle with writing. This is why Twitter and I don't get along. I'm not made for Twitter.
No, Twitter's way too direct for you.
Twitter's way too direct for me because tone for me matters, and it's important to making sure...
Twitter's all about shock and awe.
I'm not about shock and awe.
As we saw today.
We're barking up the wrong tree.
No, Twitter's not your game.
Okay, so that's motivational interviewing. Next!
Okay, next.
Oh, I love this one.
Interdisciplinary approach.
And this is most certainly being into you, especially if you are a pen nurse or a nurse, period.
Interdisciplinary approach. If I had to guess what that means, it would be trying to bring different viewpoints and facets of life together to try to problem solve.
Yeah, that is exactly it.
Oh, look at that.
Yes. And being at the bedside as a nurse, I think the strongest factor I bring to being I don't want to say politician, Lord help me,
what's it gonna be?
As a congressperson, is that I am very, very familiar and adept with talking with anybody and everybody on a care team and trying to coordinate and pull all those voices together to get everyone on the same page and to clarify a patient's plan of care.
Okay.
And really what that means is that you try to hear as many perspectives as possible, and you value each perspective for what they can contribute. And it also means that, contrary to what a lot of policy people do, is that, at least on Twitter, is that no single person has the right answer.
Right.
Did I say that right? No, yeah. No single person has the answer.
Well, of course they don't.
No. And when you're talking about making policies that will shape the face of a nation, you have to acknowledge that even if you believe somebody is wrong, that they come from a different place, they may have a different life experience, and that you should value what they're saying even if you don't agree with it, and try to understand their perspective. That's the one thing that drives me nuts about politics in this day and age, is people not acknowledging the experiences of other people as valid.
Absolutely. Yeah, because even if you don't agree with someone, even if they are completely on the other side of the spectrum as you, there is a reason that they believe what they believe. And even if you are so adamantly, like, you so adamantly feel that they are wrong, and maybe even they are wrong in like what they think the solution should be.
Or you think they're wrong.
Yeah, like you can't just like, or you shouldn't just completely out of hand disregard them as people or their experiences, because they can still bring something to the table. Because we do need to, if certain people, if we don't, even if their like fears are possibly unfounded, we still need to ameliorate their fears. I love that word. It's a very musical sounding word, ameliorate.
Ameliorate is a great word.
But we need to ameliorate their fears. We need to ease their fears. Let them know that, like, yes, things are going to be, we might change things, but it will be okay, and here's why.
Even more than that, I find that if you're negotiating a deal or a topic for a solution, if you spend time trying to understand the other person's perspective and why they feel the way that they do, and yes, feelings are important, because we are human after all, we are not robots, you will be more successful taking the time to understand other people's perspectives.
Of course.
And that is a core tenet of my campaign, which is why I have strategically chosen not to focus on what other people are doing, especially on my social media, because I'm not here to cast anybody out or have anybody immediately judge me, because the internet is a judgy place.
Oh yeah, isn't it though?
Yeah.
Small, not tangent, but like kind of like where I see interdisciplinary approaches working is in there's like proof that companies that make more like diversity hires, as people like to call it. It's like a real controversial way to put it.
I like to say that prioritize casting their net as wide
exactly.
as
like
possible.
They bring in as many people as they can who have different life experiences, people, so they have a very wide spread of demographics in the workplace. Those companies see the most growth. They succeed the most, and that's because you're bringing in people who have different ideas because of their cultural background, because of their different life experiences.
I really like that. I like the way you phrased that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't even remember what I said.
And it's okay. That's why we have a recording. I believe there is some work out there that shows, having more women on executive boards is a good thing.
How can it not be?
Well, there's something to be said about emotional intelligence. Not that men don't have it, but I think women have kind of been trained to care about what other people think and to take it into consideration.
Well, it's just like not doing it just implies that like, oh, like these men are better than every single woman we could possibly have on the executive board. Like, that's stupid. Like, by widening the net, and this is just going off on a tangent at this point, but by widening the net, you're able to bring in the best of people of all different backgrounds. So instead of watering down your own talent by only having white dudes be in positions of leadership, like, you're getting the best of everybody.
And going back to interdisciplinary approaches, it means learning to identify strengths in other people in non-traditional ways. Yeah. Just because you haven't been the head of a charity or a Fortune 500 company or the CEO of a company doesn't mean that you don't have talents that could essentially improve the operations of a business. It could be someone that has literally been running their church from day one and knows how to identify strengths in people and whip them into shape. I think that's a big weakness in the way that people run businesses and let managers and leaders kind of operate, is that they don't look for strengths in non-traditional ways. Yeah. Yeah.
So last one.
Woohoo!
Meet people where they're at.
Ooh, I keep saying all of these are my favorite, but they're all related in a way. Mm-hmm. And this
one's pretty self-explanatory. What it is.
Meet people where they're at. As I've said before, Jojo is not a confrontational person. Nope. There is not confrontational bone in my body. I'm passionate. Yeah. I get fired up. Mm-hmm. but I could probably find a reason to forgive anybody and anything just because I can't stop thinking about how other people are feeling.
Right.
And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I think it's a good thing because it helps to really ground me in what's important, which is people and humans. This to me means that if you're trying to solve a problem, that you think creatively and you try to think out of the box. And instead of making it black or white, you try to expand the pie to try to find the solution that works for the other person and kind of acknowledges their experience. Because realistically, we do this in nursing all the time. You have to work with what you have. You can spend all the time wishing that you had enough time, enough supplies, enough resources, enough money, but you have to work with what you have. And that requires everyone saying, this is what I have available and this is what I don't have available, and working with what everyone can offer.
Thank you.
All right. And last but not least, it really sells the point that every single person has a different life experience. And I don't feel comfortable ever discrediting somebody's life experience, no matter how much I may disagree with what they do or say. And that is by far the driving force behind this campaign. It has allowed me to think differently. It has given me permission to be myself in a way, because I think the hardest thing you can do is accept that you don't know everything. But as we say in nursing, especially when Jojo comes around, I don't know, but I sure as hell know where to find the answer.
Jojo. Don't have this. We don't have time. Anyway.
Nursing jokes.
As you can see, nurses are pretty great at communicating.
I believe it's called transferable skills.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I do want to note that I have to give a lot of credit to...
Don't note for too long.
Refining things. A lot of credit to refining these skills to having gone through my master's degree. Initially, I didn't really think about how much that impacted how I thought. But a lot of these skills I did refine in graduate school. And have been refined by working at the bedside. So, if anything... all those student loans might have paid off or something.
Of course they paid off. Stop. In summary, elect people of varying backgrounds to public office, because that's how we'll get actual shit done.
You do not need to be a lawyer, because lawyers spend too much time debating.
But lawyers are great too.
They are great too.
But we don't need all lawyers.
Yeah,
or all businessmen.
I think we can do with less businessmen and less lawyers.
Run the country like a business.
No, you cannot. You cannot run a country like a business, because we're people.
Anyway. Definitely not. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to this episode of Jojo Runs for Congress.
Thank you.
If you want to check out the campaign, you can go to our website and social medias, Mantilla2020.com, and...
see the show notes below.
Show notes. Okay, yes.
Find me at Jojo for Congress.
All right.
If you made it this far.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye. What a campaign.
Yeah, there it is. Bye-bye.